Fucking to be expected, but still. This story comes from Las Vegas Sun. Strict abortion laws since the fall of Roe have led to increased infant deaths, not fewer. Researchers have marked an increase in infant deaths since the Dobbs decision, which removed a woman's constitutional right to an abortion under any circumstances and nullified the Roe v. Wade decision from nearly 50 years before. The death rate is especially high among infants born with congenital anomalies, according to a recent study published in JAMA Pediatrics, an international peer-reviewed journal, and the oldest continuously published pediatric journal in the United States.
There's a part of this article, Tom, I just have to read. It says, this is an opinion article, but it is leaning heavily on that study. It says, abortion isn't a decision that pregnant people and families make with malice towards pregnancy, as it's too often portrayed by pro-life proponents. It can also be used to spare the mother and the father from stillbirths or situations that will result in a baby's death just a few hours after birth. It's a heart-rending, emotionally wrenching situation that these conservative states have condemned mothers to by enforcing these abortion bans. More often than not, pregnant people seeking an abortion are not the stereotypical boogeyman of a baby killer. They are just seeking medical care. Yet these laws, set up to catch those rare cases, instead catch women and pregnant people who need care that falls under the medical definition of abortion and thereby doom their unborn to short, painful life. And that is the reason why you, this is exactly why you need it. And you're seeing the uptick in these children that they know what before they are a fully formed child or whatever you want to call it in the womb, right? Like at a certain point, we have these markers that are like, yeah, it's a viable baby or whatever. These are things you can find out long before it would have been perfectly legal during the Roe v. Wade days to have an abortion at that point. Long before, right? You can find out these markers. You can know that these markers are part of what could cause something to cause your child to have some really serious problems and then die. And you don't want to go through that, and you don't want to put a baby through that. And you think, I don't want to have this kid just so it could die within minutes. And within the let's say the 10th week of pregnancy. Yeah, wouldn't you change your mind? Be like, you know what? I just don't want to do this. I just don't want to make a world with more suffering. But the thing is that again, I feel like the suffering is the point for them.
Yeah, the suffering. Well, and let's be very clear: the suffering for the women is the point.
Exactly.
The suffering of women is the point of doing this. So the suffering of women was always the point of the Dobbs decision. It was to increase the suffering of women and to decrease women's autonomy. That is exactly that's it. That was the reason for it. It's not about babies. To say this is about babies is genuinely a phenomenally stupid thing to say. And I mean that too, in that it is a phenomenon. It is just a drastically stupid thing to say. And we know it, right? If you spend literally any time looking at the science around pregnancy, we know this. We know this. We know that there's none of the same brain activity we would require in an adult person in order to say this isn't a living being, right? Until the 7th month.
Yeah.
We know that. It's a knowable thing. You can fucking read about it. It's not... So we have a lot more answers than the sort of magical theory bullshit that they pretend. Oh, as soon as it's conception, there's a magic blink of super Jesus magic that makes a baby. Nobody really believes that. Nobody that's got any fucking sense believes that. This has always been about hurting women. And what a cruel way to hurt women, to make them give birth to a child that is congenitally non-viable.
Yeah.
And to put another point on it, it's also just the case that pregnancy is dangerous. It's a dangerous thing to do as a human being. Giving birth is also a dangerous thing to do as a human being. These are not risk-free propositions at all. So to make a woman go through all of the physical, hormonal, and mental changes that they go through during a pregnancy, then to make them go through the dangers of that, preeclampsia, toxemia, all of I'm just naming the same thing in two different words, but like there are many different like complications of pregnancy that kill women. And here in the United States, funny enough, we have the worst maternal mortality rate of any industrialized first world nation. It's a dangerous thing to be pregnant. And we're making more women to be pregnant because this is about hating women. It's always been about hating women.
Yeah, the one thing that always surprised me, or I don't know if it surprises me, but it's something that completely flies over their head is, they want to, like you suggest, they want to damage their goal. The cruelty is the point. They want to attack pregnant people. They want to make sure that they attack them and make sure that they suffer. But very specifically, if you're a believer and you think we're trying to save babies or whatever, you also have a God who's up there who's like thinking that what I want is that baby to live for a day and then damage that person who had them and then damage and then kill the baby. Like,
right.
You're the one doing it, right? Like they're all talking about how they don't want, we're killing baby, but what's going to happen is that baby's going to be born and then your God is going to kill it.
Yeah, well, and this doesn't even take into consideration other genetic horrors that would be likely to be aborted that will mean that somebody will be born to live for years in agony. So I'm thinking like right now of something like cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is a death sentence. You do like it's a terrible, miserable existence to have cystic fibrosis. You can't live past your 20s. That's unlikely to even. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah,
wow.
It's a nightmare. You get, best case scenario, you get a lung transplant or two to make it into your 20s or early 30s.
Oh my gosh.
It's a horror. Your brain is totally unaffected, so you get a regular mind, but you get a body that constantly has fluids that overly thicken. That is basically what cystic. So you're drowning constantly in your own self, and you die young, and you die in pain, and it's terrible. And it's also genetically knowable. So you can test for cystic fibrosis in the womb. And if you had a baby that was 6 or 8 or 10 12 weeks old, and it doesn't have any brain function, but it's got fucking cystic fibrosis, you might want to not bring that person into the world, to be born into the world in a life of suffering and pain. Though it's not even counted in this study.
Right.
There are plenty of people who, if they found out they had a child that had one of the many, and this is just one I happen to know about, but like one of the many types of genetic disorders that cause you to live in agony and pain, you'd be like, yeah, I'll just do it. I'll do it over.
Yeah.
Or I won't have kids at all.
Right.
But I don't want to have a kid that's going to live. That's not even counted in this study. This study is just about infants that die. There are people that just live in agony. And those people are being born where they wouldn't have been born before. And like, think too about the burden that places in a system without social safety nets.
Yeah, man, for sure.
The financial burden that places on those caregivers.